Kent Hrbek here first to talk a little bit about Harmon and what he meant to you.
Definitely a sad day when you lose an icon. Followed Harmon for as long as probably anybody in there except for maybe Jack and Molly. Being a kid growing up in the area, you had idols when you were playing the game of baseball, and not only this guy sitting next to me and Tony Oliva, but Harmon Killebrew was the two people that you thought of when you thought about Twins baseball, and you never think it's going to happen, and I think Harmon has become something of a Paul Bunyan in the state of Minnesota, and just spent the last week up in the Brandon area where Paul Bunyan was always an icon, and found out the news about Harmon, and it's kind of ironic that these two go together, I think, in my life, because Harmon was, to me, Paul Bunyan with a uniform on, and tough to see him go, and Harmon was a great guy, and talked with Harmon the last few years, played in his golf tournament out in Arizona, and it's never talk baseball with Harmon. It was always talk about family and friends, and you know, it's a sad day. We lost an icon. We lost Paul Bunyan. I guess that's about all I have to say.
Thanks, Kent. And next, Paul Molitor, who also was down to Arizona recently.
Thanks, Kevin. You know, just a few things for me. You know, I know it's a sad day. We lost, you know, one of the most legendary sports figures in the history of our state, and with the integrity to back it up. But you know, there's joy too. I mean, I'm glad that God brought him home after the suffering he's been through the past few months. And there's also joy in that, you know, we have memories and the smiles that we all shared when we think about Harmon. And, you know, in death you think about life. And in our life, if you're mindful of Harmon, your life will be enriched. And that's a good thing. So, you know, Harmon only spent, what, a quarter of his life as a major league player. The other 3 quarters as a tremendous human being, included with his time as a player. I was so impressed by his servanthood, his foundation, people he touched, the way he gave back. You know, it was a tremendous example for someone like myself. And you know, I guess just finally, thankfully, my wife Destiny and I did get out there, and like Tony's wife, she said, you know, you got to go, and I'm glad that we did. I saw the joy that he had even at the end, with the love and the hugs and the kisses from his wife and his children and his grandchildren, and it was beautiful. You know, but I'm grateful that I could tell him, as a young man growing up in this state, to have idolized him, and just that I was very appreciative of the man he was, and how I was able to learn from him, and that I picked, you know, the guy that you would want to pick to be your idol. You know, so that's what I got.
Thank you, Paul. And Jack Morris.
Thanks, Kevin. I don't know how I can say anything that hasn't already been said. I think, like Kent and Paul, you know, I lost a hero today. And I think the one thing that hits home the most with Harmon is his strength. Not as a player, but as a person. And his kindness. And the strength in his kindness. To me, he was a real man. He was all man. Because he loved so much. He is this family that we call the Minnesota Twins. I think at this point, I think it's more of a celebration of his life than it is a mourning of his death for me. I'm going to always remember the good in Harmon. And like Paul and like Kent, to remember the innocence of being a young kid who just looked up to a guy he didn't know because of what he did as a baseball player, something that you hope that maybe someday he could be like. But as a grown man now, I'll look back at him not as that guy, but as the guy who tried to show me that you don't have to be angry, you don't have to be mad. You can love and share love. We're all going to miss him, and we're all going to love him forever.